Joshi against the motion, please.
Hello. Have you ever listened to an orchestra without a conductor? It's an experience. You have the violinist passionately playing the melody tunes, you have the trumpet blaring out the triumphant march, and you have the percussion section with their own wild songs. But that is not music, that is chaos, a cacophony. Every musician is talented, every instrument is perfectly tuned, but without a single guiding hand, we make noise. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we risk for a nation when we say we prioritize strong states over strong nation. Now, my proponent might have painted a picture of a nation where it is a family potluck. But a nation is not a potluck, it is a symphony orchestra that desperately needs a conductor. Greetings, Honorable President, respected judges, my worthy proponents, and to one and all present here. Today, I, Nandini Joshi, stand before you from Rajendra Prasad Law Institute to present my stance against the given motion. I will be presenting three major arguments to support my stance. First and the foremost argument, national defense and external strength. Let us be factual for a moment. Who protects our borders? Is it the Punjab State Army or is it the Tamil Nadu Navy? No, it is the Indian Armed Forces unified under one command, one constitution, and one tricolor. When we face external threat, whether it is across Himalayas or over the Indian Oceans, we cannot afford 28 different strategies. At that time, what we need is one powerful and coordinated response. Our strength at the international stage does not merely come from our diversity, it comes for our ability to speak as one voice, our ability to act as one entity. And respected judges, a vulnerable nation is a fragmented nation is a vulnerable nation, easy target for those who do not wish us well. Let me remind you that the Constitution of India under Article 352 gives national emergency to impose the power to impose national emergency to the center, because the framers of our constitutions were aware that defense cannot be federal, and history has testified that divided power leads to divided nation. Which brings me to my second argument, economic equality and national equity. Let's talk about it home, about the economics of strength. We celebrate the idea of competing states. But what happens when this very healthy competition turns into inequality? What happens when one state, which is blessed with natural resources, becomes the island of prosperity while its neighbor faces the basic infrastructural development? That is not federalism, that is fragmentation through finance. And that is where a strong center plays an important role as a great equalizer. It collects revenues and redistributes it through finance commission awards. It ensures that even a child sitting in the remote mountain hamlet of Uttarakhand receives equal opportunity at education and healthcare as a child sitting in Delhi and Bangalore. This brings me that center, it is the center that funds the rural electrification across all country. It is the center that makes national highways that do not stop at state borders, and it is the center which ensures that the prosperity of one region is a foundation of another. Imagine that whenever you change a state border, you have to change a currency. That sounds comical, but that is the extreme of putting a state over the nation. And this brings me to my final argument, political and cultural cohesion. It is not to be said that states are unimportant. Far from it. They are individuals, musicians, and brilliant in this great symphony. The soul of our culture resides in their unique tunes, from the soaring violins of the north to the soulful flutes of the east. But if we want to become world's greatest orchestra, then we must play from the same music sheet, that is our constitution. We must follow the same tempo, that is our nation's vision. Now, the imbalance of danger is visible in the history. Let me take you to the Khalistani protest of 1980s, where the demand for Punjab started by revenue, land, and language autonomy, but soon muted into a separatist call, costing lives of 21,000 people. And similarly, let's take the international examples of Spain's Catalonia and Yugoslavia. They remind us that whenever regional identity eclipses over national identity, disintegration is not far from it. A strong center ensures that we as a nation have one defense force, have one economic unit, and remain as one people of a nation. A strong center ensures that when we travel from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, there is a continuity. And let us not aspire to be a nation which is a collection of chaotic, talented soloists. Let us aspire to be world's greatest orchestra. And in my concluding statements, ladies and gentlemen, the strength of a union, the strength of a union is not defined by the power of its parts, but by the purpose that binds them. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the speech. My question is short, but I'll mold it into two parts. Firstly, don't you think you're comparing a very idealistic center to a very realistic state? And secondly, don't you think currently, where the central government has won using identity politics, that has fragmented the state more than the state prioritizing its own identities? That is my question.
So the first question was? Could you repeat?
Yeah, my question was, in your speech, don't you think you're comparing a very idealistic center to a very realistic state? And secondly, the current center in our country has won using identity politics in a very majoritarian and populist rhetoric. So don't you think that has fragmented states more than states prioritizing their own cultural or ethnic identities?
Right, thank you. So I have not painted a picture of an idealistic center in front of you. I've painted the picture of how should a center and how is the center working. That is, a strong center is there. India is not a federal nation, it is a quasi-federal nation. So a center is necessary to coordinate, not to silence. So to say that I have painted the picture of an idealistic center is completely wrong. I have painted the picture which Constitution has given to us. And to say the second question, which was, could you please repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. My second question was, the current center that we have, that has won using identity politics only, a majoritarian and populist rhetoric. So wouldn't you say under their regime, our country has fragmented more than it would have if it were just the states, is what my...
All right. So that is your belief that the party which is at the center is a majoritarianism center. There is no evidence to that. And for that sense, India cannot be turned into a dictatorship overnight. We have a constitution in front of us that has a system of checks and balances that ensures that the center is only providing a synchronized rhythm to the state. Because if we were to believe that only states can have autonomy, then we will have 28 fragmented nations, and that is not the case. 79 years after independence, India is still a union, which has also been mentioned in Article 1, Union of India and not Federation of State. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for your speech. I have a second question. So you referred to security threats, especially in your speech, saying that they are just better dealt with by the central forces. But how do you believe that internal security issues could be dealt with the central forces, especially seeing the situations that, first of all, arise in Chhattisgarh owing to the Maoist insurgencies, and the allegations that the CRPF has fundamentally failed to recognize the tribal groups that may or may not be what they call Naxalites. Secondly, there are examples like Northern Ireland being an
Could you please skip to the question?
Okay, so could you answer that question?
It's the security threat. So I think you talked about that. I have never in my speech mentioned that states are important. In fact, I have recognized that they are important. But what we are referring to here is strong states. I talked about the national defense system. I did not meant that the state should not have their local policing system or local bureaus. That is necessary. But what is also necessary is that a nation can only be built when the state is coordinating with the center. And if we leave each and every state with their policing force, and when a dispute arrives, do you think that the fragmentation will not occur? Do you really think that when border disputes might arrive between different states, that the state would not cause a civil war? That is where the center steps in. So no, I have not denied the existence of local police forces, or I have not said that the state governance is not important. I have only said that a strong state giving a complete autonomy to them would fragment the nation. Thank you.